Esau Rising, continuation of chapter 5. Today we know that it was God's plan all along for Jacob, not Esau, to have the rights, responsibilities, and blessings of the firstborn. Yet there are a lot of people, Christians, Jews, and even the non-religious, who remain under the spell of Esau's words. It is my position that this is one reason why so many so-called Christians consider Palestinian terror groups like Hamas to be freedom fighters, warring against the Israeli occupiers and aggressors. They resist the need to call for an end to suicide bombings at the hands of these oppressed refugees and instead spearhead the call to put an end to Israeli apartheid. Don't get me wrong, there are Palestinians who are worthy of our support, both financially and prayerfully, but I'm not convinced that the Israelis are the ones who are oppressing them. Much of the hardship they are forced to live with is imposed upon them by their own leaders and internal terrorist groups like Hamas. On the other hand, I don't believe that every Israeli is a saint. I have no doubt there are Israelis who abuse their power, but I'm sure living in fear for their lives every time they walk into the streets and get on a city bus takes its toll. That said, I remain convinced that by and large, those who view Israel or the Jew living outside of Israel as a threat to world peace, as crooks and thieves, and in general as the enemy of the world are, in fact, Esau's spiritual clones. Most of the time they accuse Israel of what they themselves are guilty of. Like the adversary and like Esau, they are the accuser of the brethren. They do this under the guise of peace, brotherhood, and international cooperation. Like their ancient counterpart, they seek to blend into this political and social environment because they don't wish for anyone to see them for what they truly are. The spirit or character of Esau in a person or group continually projects the notion that I'm the one who has been harmed, I'm the one who has been injured, I'm the one who has been robbed, I'm the one who has been deceived, I'm the victim here. The fact is, he accuses others of what he's guilty of doing. He's the one injuring others. He's the one robbing and deceiving others. He is the trickster and deceiver. Pretending to be the victim and playing the martyr is the tactic he uses, and most likely the excuse he relies upon to convince himself and anyone who will listen that Jacob, that is Israel, needs to be destroyed. I do hope, dear reader, that you are internalizing what I'm sharing with you. Look at what is going on in the world right now. Clever and manipulative words are being used right now in a deliberate effort to set a trap, not just for the nation of Israel, but for God's people all over the world. This trap includes telling people what they desire to hear, offering the masses what they think they want, dangling the shiny object before them to draw their attention away from what the master illusionist is really planning to do. Esau's disciples will dress their presentation with colorful and attractive trappings because they know that people will be drawn to what has the appearance of being good. It is recorded for us that on 2 occasions Esau returned from the field either to consume a bowl of stew or to offer it. In both instances, the skillful hunter lost something very valuable. The first time because he gave it away, and the second time because he was outwitted. Here's what happened next. Then Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Indeed, I have made Jacob your master, and all his brethren I have given to him as servants. With grain and wine I have sustained him. What will I do for you now, my son?" And Esau said to his father, "Have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me also, my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. This man's man, the hunter and champion of the field, was reduced to wailing and tears. Why was he so distraught? Was it bitter disappointment at the realization that his own brother had betrayed him? I believe that is highly unlikely. What then? I would suggest that his great expression of grief was precipitated by the fear that he had lost the right to Isaac's stuff. He believed that Jacob had taken from him what rightfully belonged to him, the herds, the flocks, and the material blessings that went with being the rightful firstborn son of a patriarch. Compare that pitiful response to the one he gave Jacob when challenged to sell the birthright. That is, the responsibility placed upon him as the firstborn son of Isaac. It is clear that Esau desperately longed for the blessing, but he was desperately wanted to be free of the responsibility that went with it. The problem for Esau and for anyone who would embrace this particular ideology is that one is not entitled to the blessing of a covenant until he accepts the responsibilities and to that covenant. In fact, being faithful to the covenant and bearing the weight of the responsibility is the only way to attain those blessings. Similarly, Messiah taught that there is only one way that leads to life, and very few people find it. Matthew 7:14. He described the entrance as narrow and the way as difficult, even more literally troublesome. That would suggest that the way that leads to life is not necessarily fun, but actually a lot of hard work. If it were fun and easy all of the time, everyone would take that path. But this one and only road that leads to life is also the one and only road that leads to blessing. The Creator said, I call heaven and earth as witnesses today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and your descendants may live. Deuteronomy 30:19. Blessing and life are synonymous, as are death and curses. Meaning that if I desire to obtain the blessing that come only from God, I must be willing to walk the only path that leads to life. To do otherwise means choosing to walk the broader path, the one that leads to death and curses. By choosing life, we choose blessing, but we also submit ourselves to walking a troublesome path, fraught with challenges and responsibility. Esau wanted the blessing, but was unwilling to traverse the only path that would lead him to it. Therefore, it becomes painfully clear that he was never worthy of the birthright to begin with. If he were here today, my guess is that he would most likely champion the idea of entitlements. He would not be the person who is grateful to those who help him when he is down on his luck. He would be the one who is convinced that because he needs it or wants it, he should be entitled to it. It is his right. It is also likely that he wouldn't care too much for what was required in order to provide the specific services and products he feels he's entitled to. If the sacred birthright was so inconsequential to him that he loved stew more, then I have to imagine that virtues such as faithfulness, honor, and commitment to hard work wouldn't appeal to him either. The one who thinks this way wants to live freely and demands prosperity, but doesn't care to pay the price required to obtain these benefits. If commitment to the birthright is the foundation, then the blessings are everything that rests upon that foundation. Without the former, the latter will certainly collapse. That lesson was certainly made clear to Esau on that fateful day. He wailed and lamented when he realized he wasn't going to have immediate access to the blessings he craved. But there was no sign of repentance. He was still the man who cared nothing for what his father revered. The righteous heritage Abraham and Isaac handed down to him meant nothing. He didn't care where he came from and what his forebears endured that he might prosper. He just wanted the stuff. When he realized he couldn't get it without the birthright, it didn't produce a change of heart. No, in fact, he determined that instead of changing his heart, he would adjust his tactics and destroy the one who now had the blessing. Then he could simply take it from him as soon as my father is buried. He said, I'm going to kill Jacob. Genesis 27:41, paraphrased. I hope you can see that this spirit and mindset are alive and well and growing daily throughout the world, and particularly here in America. There is a sentiment emerging among our countrymen that the methods and beliefs of the past are no longer adequate in the 21st century. There are even those who strive very diligently to vilify those who founded this country, accusing them of everything imaginable and mocking their spiritual beliefs. Say what you will about the imperfections of American founding fathers, and they were imperfect because there is no righteous, no, not one. Romans 3:10. But I am convinced beyond all doubt that they believed in and depended on the perfect principles contained in the Bible. Those who exhibit the spirit of Esau despise what has come before and disdain what their ancestors considered precious and sacred. So they hurl baseless accusations and make violent threats against anyone who would dare stand in their way, and they seek to obtain the blessing of liberty through their own perverted methods.